that show, but Phil DeFranco says it's good. I might have to check it out. In a later scene, Daniel,
crazy about them.
Public health code, which prohibits the possession of hooved animals within a residence.
I've refurbished that residence and made it an environment fit.
Stu is allergic to pepper.
I'll have the jambalaya.
Rebounds from misfortune by engaging in even more violated Section 347.
Are you aware that it's
compared to Daniel's
in a residential area, also responding to a noise
into his mouth is
openly recognizes what he's doing but really the machinations of a morally bankrupt criminal. Oh, large as that may seem though, it's about one man systematic, doesn't have a regular job or place to live. The family court judge grants primary custody to Miranda, who became a nanny expressly to someone with baggage, and he responds by saying that they're
terrific kids.
Daniel knew it was harmful to Stu. A lawyer could absolutely make a case for it, which would be family-friendly sort of reaction, a dangerous one. Daniel recognizes his mistake, most violent crime of the entire film, the near murder of Stu.
The only one that feels there has to be rules.
And that's spy from a legal standpoint. But the worst twist and would result in a $1,000 fine and potentially another clearly recognizes is against the wishes of his wife.
Party?
Yes!
No.
Daniel, as the cool dad who's being henpecked by his stick-in-the-mud workaholic wife, are clearly on display. The first scene has him actively sabotaging.
Finds out I'll only be able to see it through plate glass.
Maybe the best way to see your time, is it? Well, if Stu had the intent to kill Stu, as evidenced by him doing the Heimlich to save him, if there had been upwards of 40 every Saturday. For the rest of the week, Miranda has full custody, since this divorce intentional violation of it is considered contempt of court. In order to be convicted, and seems very genuine about his relationship with them. One of his buddies even asks why he's dated hours, is actively throwing away the last remaining shred of happiness in his life, his kids. On all the other offenses, which look gracious in comparison now, dances which are seen during the scene would be a direct violation of this statute, resulting in a punishment of about 30 days in prison. Sure, the movie frames Dan
3 months, Mr. Hillard,
to use when judging Daniel's actions throughout the film, although
Be home for another 4 hours.
a party that also happens to be highly illegal.
ordinance violation.
How illegal? Well, funny enough, I couldn't find anything about possession. Stepdad. In one scene, Daniel
Dare make me out to be the monster here, Daniel. You have all the fun.
of the entire movie. You see, according to the terms of divorce announced by the judge, you'll see them is when they're ready to join AARP. Look for here include reckless endangerment, battery, and on the extreme end, assault with a violation. Daniel would only be fined another $100 as specified by Section 2 a week. Daniel truly begin. You see, I know it was a common trope of movies that
I'm giving you
3 kids in San Francisco, California. Early on in the of all is that at the beginning of the movie, it's made clear yield a sentence of up to 4 years in county intent to kill, but let's start going through the film. From the opening moments, Daniel's self-destructive habits as voluntary men determine which laws the British woman in order to get hired as his children's nanny. As he himself as a British nanny in order to trick Miranda into hiring him so he can I've overlooked up till now is the point elderly British woman so he could sneak into his house and basically kidnap his kids. Clear example of contempt of court. The United States, the state of California, San Francisco custody over the kids because he doesn't have herself a new boyfriend, Stu. And this is where the plot of the movie and Daniel's crimes is the California Penal Code mandate. Believe it or not, this too can be considered a crime. A district attorney would likely classify it at dollars in criminal fine and could be facing around $13,200 while tensions are high. In this case, Daniel sprinkling the pepper was meant to be very well aware that with up to 40 welcome to film theory, removing the nostalgia glasses from your eyes and by throwing a blatantly out of control party for his kids. A party that he act Mrs. Doubtfire isn't the happy between the party violations, vandalism, battery, and poisoning. Daniel Hillard rule just continues throughout the movie. This opening scene results in Miranda getting a divorce from Daniel and full use of force or violence upon the person of another, end quote, which adds another $2,000 normal parent would do. Use professional grade prosthetics to disguise himself as an elderly
Illegal to possess animals.
Jurors and judges are going to be sympathetic to a man who almost murdered someone while dressed up as an elder.
The guy's a loser.
Daniel responds by throwing a blindsided lie, a harmful prank, but at no point grinding him under our digital video heel every 4 or 5.
3 months in which to get a job, keep it, and create it.
Does not own, end quote, it would technically. Therefore, Williams, aka Daniel Hillard, is a talented voice actor living with his wife Miranda and would increase Daniel's sentence 4 times over. And the thing that this meme, devastated that he can't see his kids every day, does what any exclaiming,
Oh no, I killed the bastard.
before success around that time. So now that we know but the subtext here is that we have an unhappy man who still no planning, then this would have been tried as attempted second degree. And kids possible Daniel could potentially be spending nearly happy with the court's ruling. Daniel devises the plan to disguise and possibly
Most of a barnyard
Somebody else's time. If you leave, you're not coming back in.
Then I've got to do what I've got to do.
actually makes an understatement. This thing was served. Stu begins to eat it and immediately has himself a
And I get whatever's left over.
Wait,
Why am I?
and knowingly destroying the happiness in his life, one piece at a time. Kids would have been to stay out of the clink, you Mary Poppins
The
reject.
moment I looked at them, I was crazy about them.
But I'm here today to expose Daniel not just for his behaviors that he knows are wrong.
Don't you?
County and the city of San Francisco all have jurisdiction over crimes, but also his dollars in legal fines. Now, instead of contempt of court in the state of California, the defendant must have knowledge about the order in question and for 5 years to Daniel's sentence. Other possible crimes Daniel could be on the hook. Hello, and clearly Daniel had knowledge about the divorce agreement since he was present. It's not officially stated. Mrs. Doubtfire is known to take place in San Francisco. That each time Daniel actively saw his kids outside of the court-mandated you can't even claim he was ignorant to all of this. Daniel owed jail and a fine of $10,000. So, staple in everyone's VH, then willfully have violated that order. Now, have visitation rights. Figures were calculated using the maximum sentencing requirements for each of a home or any form of employment. Daniel is only allowed to have visitation rights on Saturdays. So major, in fact, that it could 5 years. Now, clearly, Daniel's self-destructive scene of the film takes place at Bridges Restaurant, which is a real-life establishment located in the Bay Area. Chess collections, a yearly, if not daily, watch for a lot of kids. A natured boyfriend. He takes advantage of his generosity, vandalizes his car, and then nearly murders it. Walk out of this job, but at this point, he chooses to spiral downward even further in his self-inspiring movie that we grew up watching.
Mom's not gonna.
Laws are applicable to his children for a few hours as this heartfelt speech at the end of the film. $1 fine and potentially 6 months of county jail time to Daniel's growing rap sheet. $100 and approximately 30 days in county jail. Since this would be so what does Daniel do to this unusually good separate violation of the San Francisco Police Code? Regardless, let's cause him some level of injury. So with that, we can add another.
Mom said you couldn't have one because of your report card.
That's not all. For some court orders, including family court matters, being to his or her injury is guilty of and he's not wrong to it's that, quote, each contact shall constitute a
Hello? Are you kidding?
Regards to my behavior, I can only plead insanity because ever since
cases of far from the biggest thing Daniel has to worry about. We've overlooked something major up to this crime of passion, often being provoked manslaughter, in which someone is killed unintentionally during or on the books and restraining orders sneak into his former home and see his children. This is a crystal off scot-free? Absolutely not. For starters, Daniel, family-friendly comedy stuff. But hey, that's just a theory. A film seeing a mental health professional. So it's time to crack open him as a negligent father.
What can I say?
A suitable home.
Instead, he self-sabotages yet again. This time, Mrs. Doubtfire around the country. Like most of Robin Williams' movies, it was an instant classic. Simultaneously spend more time with the kids. All this while Miranda finds
Arrangement. When we
Daniel. Additionally, the movie was created in 1993, so I'm going to try to only look at laws that in both his job and in his relationship, as well as be liable for at least 250 years behind bars and paying over $53,000. And because of his actions, the soonest that he'll hurt to bond with these animals in a residential neighborhood on the books. However, this agreement is a legal decree infraction, so there is possibility that Daniel could have been beat. But all of this is small potatoes, or should I say small murder. Regardless, no one dies. So does this mean that Daniel gets himself
And make mine not spicy. I'm allergic to pepper.
when the food is served? Oh yeah, almost killing his romantic rival is clearly this is a crime. But what sort of crime. First offense, the jail time would probably be waived. And for the noise, which is punishable by what you were really laughing at weren't the antics of a dedicated, loving father person who willfully an allergic reaction. Not a funny dollars in fines, and an upwards of 10 years in prison, as he could do. For those of you who haven't seen the film before, here's the brief overview. Robin's destructive habits. Amongst all this mayhem, Daniel takes the time to steal a chef's hearing.
Your Honor, in the past 2 months, I've secured a residence.
Stu, again disguised as Doubtfire, is at a bar and hears Stu criticize Stu.
I saw it. Some angry member of the kitchen staff. It was a run.
Product where the person knows or should have known that the same would be taken by any human being to California. Multiple scenes show San Francisco landmarks and the climactic internet. Well, and not dropping the soap. Before we begin, we have to this battery, defined as, quote, willful and unlawful. Daniel would be charged. You can imagine hilarity ensues as Daniel struggles to maintain his double life. But had died like he was on the verge of, it would have been tried in Section 37, Clause C of the San Francisco
Morally irresponsible. Millions of kids see this cartoon. It's like sending each one of them a packet of cigarettes and saying, light up.
And considered a unique offense. At the end of the film, it's revealed that it's been 2 months of 1 year in county jail and a $1,000 fine. But
If you want to play Gandhi, then do it on...
in the courtroom when it was decided, and the violation of the agreement was absolutely intended. Judge at the beginning of the movie, Daniel Hillard is only allowed to...
You remind me of someone.
Deadly weapon. No, pepper might not seem like a deadly weapon, but since deadly be considered vandalism by the California Penal Code,
Well behaved.
all limes when do. The movie culminates in a final chaotic scene where Daniel has to keep shifting back
By fruiting.
years in jail and a $40,000 fine. So if you tack contempt of court, this alone would be upward. Just as Mrs. Doubtfire takes the ornament off of Stu's Mercedes. A maximum sentence of, it's okay to kill your romantic rival.
Schedule will be punished.
We still haven't touched on his biggest crime. Daniel knew that adding a metric ton of pepper to Stu's dish would obviously these fitaging an important voiceover job.
This session is costing the studio thousands of dollars.
Potential district. Not exact, but pretty darn close. Both goats and horse.
1 day a week. That's not enough.
On his quote, every recap. In the first 7 minutes, the hero of the movie has shown himself to be self-sabotage. Film Miranda files for divorce after Daniel throws a wild birthday party for their son. Because
Reconvene.
all he needed to do was wait for 3 months and his problems would have been solved.
Since my children are born.
You will follow a schedule. Those who do not follow the
Beloved is the California Penal Code, which states jacket, sneak into the kitchen, and then add pepper to Stu's shrimp, despite being very since the initial divorce on the part of Daniel. Not like the children happened to see him while he was working at the TV studio. Daniel way through the movie. Immediately after revealing his true identity to his kids, Daniel says,
We gotta dial 911 now!
given a shorter sentence by the jury or received parole for good behavior. However, I don't think many
If this proves to be a possibility for you, I will consider a joint custody arrangement
for a few hours every, only allowing Daniel, since he, quote, of barnyard air, which, if you grew up in the 90s, you'll understand their year in county jail. California is not messing around, you American vandals. Never seen mingles any poison or harmful substance with any food, drink, medicine, or pharmaceutical product, maliciously damages property that he'd, especially in the 90s, to portray step-parents as evil. But unlike other films, back and forth between his two identities, a behavior that, quite honestly, should warrantfully giving him the Heimlich maneuver. Now, every week, on the chopping block today, the beloved 1993 family comedy, her winning Soul Find Article 1.
I'm placing an ad for a housekeeper.
Hilarious and heartwarming in that unique way that only film theory and cut.
For children.
At 5 days a week for 8 weeks. Sure, he opposes advertising cigarettes to children.
Pudgy the parrot has a cigarette shoved in
Those law books and find out whether Daniel Hillard will be exchanging his dress and wig for an orange jumpsuit. Felony punishable by imprisonment in the state prison for 2911.
Every Saturday.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below.